coming down, and they are abducting people with a blue light.
I found this on the counter upstairs, so y'all need to tell me something right now.
I'm pregnant. Matt, oh, there you are. Look, I'm so grateful that you've stuck around for these 2 weeks since our baby has come to full term. But we're in the final chapter here, and soon I'm going to be getting, even more hormonal, even more, crazy for cravings, and I just need to know that you're not going to leave me for someone else, for someone smaller and skinnier and some skank who is gonna take you away from our baby. I need to know that, okay?
David, it's the goddamn apocalypse. The Richardsons just got decapitated. Little Jimmy is a pile of goo.
You mean Kathy Richardson? She called me fat. I don't even care.
She's not fucking wrong.
How dare you?
David, can we just have a sense of some normalcy and just watch a fucking movie?
Okay, alright, that sounds good. One condition, you buy pizza, and we get ranch and grits. Let's get over.
We watched a movie
That
today.
is my line! We watched a movie today.
Beyond Skyline.
Beyond Skyline.
We've gone beyond it.
What,
Beyond the Black Rainbow.
What lies beyond the horizon? Beyond the skyline?
Beyond the Black Rainbow. Behind the dark side of the sun.
Beneath the darkness. Who knows? But it's apparently aliens.
And the darkness is rising.
It's all apparently aliens. Every answer.
It's always aliens.
It's always aliens.
Some eldritch abomination that we don't get any explanation for that would actually make things worthwhile to watch through these movies.
Yeah, well, that's about the review. So,
we're done. See you, everybody.
Give you the plot. Beyond Skyline is literally concurrent with Skyline. It is taking place during the same attack at the same times. We're introduced to Mark, father of Trent. Trent's a troublemaker. He got arrested after throwing a punch in a fight. And
that never goes anywhere.
And when he gets out is when the alien thing happens. They're all stuck in
that never goes anywhere.
They're all stuck in a subway underground, and it is when they reach the outside. Somehow they're already on day 2 of they're looking through a thing, and they see the military coming and nuking the ship. It drops down. And they're like, oh, everyone run. And they manage to escape.
While you're reusing footage from the first movie.
Yep, it's directly. And then they go to the, they get out of there, and they come out, and there's aliens surrounding them, trying to kill them all. Some of them, by the way, when I say them, we got Sarge, ex-military veteran,
blind,
homeless, blind, at least in one eye. It's
old,
confusing.
black. You have to make sure that he's all the token
He's basically
characters.
Danny Glover.
I was waiting for him to this was definitely a role that was originally designed for Danny Glover.
When it came to we have Mark and Trent. Mark is played by.
He looks a little bit like his Ahab character from Age of the Dragon.
Mark is played by, I forget his actor's name, but it's the guy who played Crossbones in Captain America, Winter Soldier / Civil War. So I should clue you in. So the okay, so the
Frank Grillo.
Grillo, yes. So he's like the primary protagonist focus. You have the train conductor of the subway, Audrey, I believe.
I don't know. Let me check.
The train conductor of the subway.
They're so memorable. Audrey, yes.
Audrey. And I think that's really it for right now. We get introduced to more characters later.
Boyana Novakic.
Whatever.
She's from Yugoslavia.
Cool.
Serbia.
So the
Belgrade.
they're attacked by the aliens, and once again they do the fucking thing where it's, oh, we managed to damage the alien, but he rips the brain out of one of them and then is able to continue surviving.
Woo!
Oh, yeah, there's a policewoman who she's the one who has her brain ripped out. She's the one girl from The Walking Dead. It's been a while since I watched that show, so I don't remember her character name in that either. But
I'll find her.
not important.
She's not in there for very long.
Yeah, she's literally just killed. So then it goes to they're trying to make it through the city, and like they're saying like, oh, get out of the city now over the police radios, and so that's just all they're trying to do. But they end up being encountered by this giant fucking alien who is the same, I'm gonna go ahead and say make and model of what Jared turned into in the last movie.
Kinda.
But he's huge. He's absolutely massive. And he's got laser powers out of his hands, Iron Man style. And he's shooting down like all the jets and stuff around. And he ends up abducting our survivors. They get up into the alien ship and they're left alive for some reason. Because Mark brought a gun.
They're waiting to be harvested.
Because Mark brought a gun, he got flushed out of the ship. But he made his way back in, and he's just trying to like find. Oh, I gotta find my son. I gotta find Trent. Trent.
We gotta get back at them. We gotta get back at them.
So then it goes to
Trent is also played by Johnny Weston, who has been in like every young adult post-apocalyptic show ever made.
He was the Convergent series guy, the Divergent series, whatever the fuck it's called. Anyway,
Allegiance,
Yep.
Insurgent. He also was in Project Almanac.
but the
John dies at the end.
where's it go? So they're all being held upside down like a spider's web sort of thing. But Mark, here's the big thing. Mark stumbles across Jared from the previous movie in his new body, and it turns out that it's been like 2 months have passed somehow, somewhere in there. Like 2 months have passed. He's led to Elaine, who is pregnant.
And a different actress.
Yeah, well, yeah. Same thing with Jared. Jared is, in the mild flashbacks they have, he's a different actor underneath the
I guess
suit.
they couldn't get the real flashback shots from the original movie.
That was a whole thing with Back to the Future stopped that from happening after he used Crispin Glover without his permission. So, thanks, Crispin. You ruined
Thanks. You're really great at American Gods, but thanks.
So when it came down to, he was like, oh my God, you're pregnant. Like, we got to help. He's like, no, you don't understand. I'm not due for another 6 months. Turns out the baby growing super duper fast.
So do you guys remember like the second episode of Fringe? Just a little less fast than that.
So she gives birth, and it's a baby girl, and Elaine dies in childbirth, and Mark holds the baby out to Jared and is like, it's yours. And he's like, I'm a fucking alien, dude. And he's like, all right.
What can I do to provide for a kid on this ship?
He's like, all right, I'll make you a deal. You help me find your son, and I will guarantee that I will get your daughter off this ship. And he's like, cool, all right, we'll do. So they go and find Trent. Meanwhile, there's like this
solid.
There's like this main running the show. I'm gonna call him a sentinel.
I call him Harbinger.
That's a good enough thing too. Where he's found out that this baby exists, and he's like, whoa, this isn't supposed to happen. That baby has powers, as they explained. Jared got his powers to super strength and all that from the light, but nothing was happening to Elaine.
Thank you for that.
What was happening was to the baby. The baby was getting powers, and it apparently is super growth powers. It grows super fast. So they find Trent, they find Sarge, they find Audrey. All three of them escape. Mark ends up getting a weapon on his arm, like a single blade thing, like Wolverine style, just punches people out with it. It seems bonded to his skin, but then it disintegrates after a couple of fights, so that was a bit weird.
The people who made the Raid movies
Yes.
was a big point behind this. I also like to say, though, the poster's pretty bamf.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like, it's kind of like the Outer World Cthulhu type shit that's going on with that.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Not representative.
It's not. It's a lie. It's all lies.
So when it comes down to they fight the Sentinel, the Jared in his dying act against the Sentinel bombs the ship, sets it all on fire, crashes down in. Is it actually just called Laos? Is that the name of the place?
Laos.
Laos. It crashes down in Laos, jungle area where there's a bunch of resistance fighters somehow, because while it's been a couple months,
They're fighting the police.
they're fighting the police, but the police are also fighting against the aliens, and they're also fighting against the aliens. So it's like a Mexican standoff
In Laos.
in Laos. So the
Woo!
they end up coming down and they find this egg-shaped thing, and they're just like, okay, well, that's super duper important. So they grab that, and they encounter when I say they, it's a brother-sister pair. They have names. Kanya and...
Dude with knives.
Dude with knives. Knife guy. Yeah. So they take the...
I think that actor
doesn't matter.
was
Knife
really
guy.
in the raid.
Oh, no, he definitely was.
Yeah, because there's a couple of raid actors in here.
So when it came, they're like, "Yo, we're friends. And he's like, "Okay, all right, come with us. We have a compound." And they're running away from the aliens, and they're running away from the police, and all that sort of stuff. And they get to the compound, and they have a doctor there. It's like, "Whoa, hey, this kid, like, how old is she?" It's like, "Oh, like 2 days old." Like, cool. I'm gonna run a test or two. I was like, "Yo, she's part alien." And everyone in the comments like, "Yo, alien, she's not welcome here." And he's like, "Well, okay, all right. Well, she's dying. She needs a blood transfusion."
Alien!
No alien!
No alien!
No alien!
Alien!
Alien? No alien! So they're like, "Oh, we need a blood transfusion." He's like, "Well, she has alien blood. What are we supposed to do?" He's like, "Yo, I got the weapon on my arm. Does that mean I have alien blood?" And he's like, "Not really, but we'll do it anyway."
We're gonna somehow this works.
So when they're doing testing on the blood, they discover that it actually blocks there's a transition process when they put the minds into the Sentinel bodies. It blocks that transition process and allows them to regain their humanity back. Trust me on this, it works out. And the egg is actually like the chemical that makes it happen, all of that stuff in there. So they say if we just load that up with the blood and throw it in their ship the same way they shoot out those light bullets, then that should work. By the way, if you haven't watched Skyline review, our last episode, watch that, because I'm going to say a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense here.
It's going to make sense?
Oh, no, but it's going to make less sense if you didn't watch that.
Yeah.
So they plan out their assault, and they attack the compound that they're all hiding in. A couple people die, a couple people survive. And Trent, as it turns out, he's one of those people who has, like, he's a little bit shaky. He's like, "Oh, no, I can fight against it. I, for some reason, have the strength of will to fight against it." And he hops into the fucking Zord, the tank thing from the first movie of the Behemoth, in order to battle against the Sentinel from this movie that's leading the thing. They have this huge fight. They have a giant cannon. They end up firing the thing into the ship and disconnecting all the Sentinels in the immediate area and deprogramming them, turning them good. They're like, "All right." And there was this whole subplot about, like, "Oh, we're not just surviving, we're evolving." And they're becoming more.
Are you, though? Are you really, though? You're not evolving. This hybrid thing, whatever this splice abomination this little girl is.
Flash forward 10 years. The girl's name is Rose, and she's now captain of, like, this spaceship where they're going to the dark side of the moon to fight the alien mothership. Fight gets started, couple ships crash, end movie.
Dun, 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 dun. Like,
where do you even begin?
I
have no...
How about, like, the behemoths here are totally, like, based off of the behemoths from Gears of War, just with a little bit of Cthulhu stuff?
It's a little different. They're much more, like, we talked in the last episode about the engineers from the Prometheus movies and all that. They strike me as that sort of thing. Because there's a whole thing where apparently they are biologically symbiotic with our species. And they theorize that we were just experiments from them dumped on this planet, left to ferment for a couple thousand years.
And they're coming back to reap the harvest.
Yes, reap the harvest. So that is exactly what the engineers are all about in the Ridley Scott movies. So, A+ on stealing that one. Like, this thing takes everything you knew about the previous Skyline movie and just says, "Yeah, but do we really need to stick to that?" Like,
Do we have to stick to the canon? Can we please change it? And the funny thing is, the filmmakers of the original movie were the producers on this one.
Yeah, they were involved. It wasn't like a brand new all over cast. The writer of the first movie is the writer of this movie.
He's also the director.
But also the director this time.
And he's also writing their next film that they're trying to come out with called Blackened.
At least not Blackened Skyline. I'll give it that.
I bet it is.
Thing is, though, is that this had a $20 million budget, and it didn't.
Estimated,
It
yeah.
didn't make back $1 million.
Which is funny because, like, funny being
Sad.
a funny fact, really. I'm not actually funny that it didn't make its money back. I never am somebody you're like, oh, great, they didn't make their money back. I actually am. The only people that I don't like that happening are Uwe Boll and another director, but I can't say it because he'll just get mad at me again. It's like, but Uwe Boll's fine because he's mad at everybody.
Yep.
It's like, but at the same time, though, I want these types of indie films to succeed. The fact that Skyline, the first one, succeeded financially in the way that it did is kind of amazing in a way.
Yeah.
But this movie, it managed to have more at the same time that it equally managed to have less. I will say that the first film had moments that I was like, okay, all right, there might be something here. This feels like this is where Bird Box got some of its inspiration from. But other than that, like I thought that, you know, again, as a special effects movie, it did what it needed to do. This one, it feels like it really kind of pulled the punches back.
Yeah. So a big thing with this is that for a long
Sequels are supposed to up it.
for a long portion
Up
of this
the notch.
movie, it stops being, you know, just trying to survive against a cosmic horror that has descended upon you.
Yeah.
That seemingly cannot be beat. And it moves into, well, you know, the person-to-person daily fights still happen. Like, he when he goes up against the people in Laos, he just, like, fights against them. They reveal that there's still a very, very lucrative drug trade on.
It's still going on.
Post-apocalypse.
Not even post,
in the apocalypse.
In medias res apocalypto.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, yeah, but, you know, there's still aliens.
There's still people getting abducted and debrained.
Yeah. Is this really the good time to be like, yeah, no, but we need to fight against the police? No!
I mean, you honestly could, if the fight with the police and the drug guy and whatever, all this other kind of stuff, who reminds me a lot of Walter Bishop from Fringe, again. But the thing is, though, if all of these details were established in the very beginning, let's say, for instance, this movie started and took place only in Laos.
Because they showed at the end of the first movie that this was a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
It didn't have to start in L.A. It
Yeah.
could have been anywhere.
And you saw, like, they went over Hawaii and whatnot. Like, this ship is just going to a random place. Like, why would you go from California to Laos?
California to Hawaii. I mean, the path makes sense.
But the population shift
no.
is so huge.
Definitely. Like, if you're going population-wise, like Independence Day style, where it's over top of major landmarks and stuff,
Yeah.
that wouldn't make any sense at
But
all.
of course, they're all dropping to the ground, and then they are going through and exterminating everybody. Mass Effect. It's like, but at the same time, I think, because it was funny when we were saying in the first film that we were going through, like, if this had more locations, it would be better. It didn't make it better with this one.
No.
If anything, actually, it made it more disjointed. It made it more unfocused on what it wanted to be. And when it comes down to these types of films, especially science fiction spectacle films, that the sequels for these things are supposed to up the ante from what you were already able to see.
Half an hour into this movie, they crashed the ship they were on. Jared made his sacrifice. They saved the child and got off the ship, which was the promise he made to Jared. That was half an hour in. And then we still had another, like, 50 minutes left after that.
More.
And it's
This
like...
was a longer movie than the first one.
It's like that they kept on... Like, you're saying that the sequel needs to build. But, like, that was the ending. What it should have done was build up to that. And do that. But instead they hit that point and they just had to maintain...
Kept it going.
For it that. And honestly... They didn't maintain. They dropped back down. That's why we had the person-on-person fights against the police. He was in Laos, mind you. He had his badge shown, and they're like, "Oh, police! I should have known." They turn on each other. It's like, LAPD. Why do you care about that in Laos?
Yeah, like, he has no jurisdiction there. Like, Do you have a thing against all police?
And he has a baby with him at that.
And what was the context for these guys like before? Were they already drug runners beforehand? Is that why they don't like the police? Because they're like going off the idea that the police have gone corrupt since the invasion began. So they're like, you know, like corrupted as an entity.
Yeah.
But did that happen beforehand? Like, it's really hysterical that a movie that I'm not asking for clarification for has anything to do with the cosmic horrors here. Like, the actual, the way that their technology works, why they specifically need brains to power these things. I can literally accept most of that shit for what it is. I cannot accept all of the characters that we are following as tools to see this spectacle. I cannot accept the completely ridiculous and non-existent context for which you guys
I think that's the biggest problem is the fact that they set up the first movie to be so much of like, look, the military tried, these people that you've been following tried, everyone tried, and everyone lost.
Yeah.
You cannot win against these things as a human being alone. And that's why at the end of the first movie, they introduced the fact that like Jared in the robot or in the alien mind or in body would be that next step in order to actually do something to take them on. Then this movie opens up. It's like, yeah, but if you're human alone, you can still pretty much do it. I mean, yeah, so whatever, fuck it.
Yeah.
They purposely make a point of saying that everything burns. Like, fire is how they kill them multiple times. And it's like, yeah, you'd think the nuke would have done that in the first movie, but apparently not. Everything burns except when it's inconvenient to the plot.
This is like the Get. This is like the Get in Mass Effect. Whatnot. They are machines, bodies being controlled by a hive mind and whatnot. And then when that hive mind is destroyed, they are given free will.
Yep.
And they choose, because how you interact with them is going to choose how they're going to, whether or not that they're going to try to establish their own independence or help humanity. And of course, at the end of this, because they're all human inside and all that jazz, they're trying to help humanity.
Yep.
The whole thing, it's really hysterical that this movie ended up being more contrived than the first one.
Yep.
The first one, I felt like I guess because of the novelty of it, you were able to just kind of let a lot of things kind of roll off your shoulders. Especially if it's a B sci-fi film, you're there for the aliens and the big-ass ships. And they still delivered on that to a point. I didn't really get enough spectacle in the first film. I got even less here.
The problem with this one is the fact that they still...
And somehow the practical effects made it worse.
That's just it. They took away a little bit from the special effects and replaced like prosthetics and stuff like that so that they could have...
It's not a bad idea,
it's not a bad idea when it comes to interacting with the people. The problem being is that doing so immediately removes the cosmic horror aspect of it because it is a physical thing that is in front of you that you can easily interact with and you have no problem. Like... That's the whole thing of the Cthulhu mythos. Like, we have the standard idea of what Cthulhu looks like in our heads because of what we... But, like, every one of the stories says, like, oh, he's beyond comprehension or whatever. Like, they have the writhing tentacle octopus head because that's just how artists have decided, yeah, that's probably right. But you're supposed to not even be able to understand what the elder gods look like.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of kind of, like, was it, like, the shapeless mists and all that jazz.
And that's when it comes down to this, like, obviously the ships had a form, the creatures had a form, everything had a form when we were looking at them. But because they were CG, there was a little bit of something off about them.
Little uncanny valley.
Which kept us at a distance from them. It kept them like, oh, that's not real. But then, like, at the end of this movie, there is a blooper reel showing all the times that the guy, he's, like, throwing a punch or whatever, and, like, he falls over on his stilts, or his prosthetic mask falls off, and it just shows the guy underneath. It's like, that, it being there takes that away.
It would be different if that was like a special feature that's added to a DVD or something like that. But the fact that you throw it into the end of the movie kind of, I don't know, it just... It even cheapens the fact that this movie ends on such a hopeful note.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, the way that this is set up, especially at the end of the movie, we're getting into the final spoilers here, is that the movie is kind of told in retrospect from the point of view of the baby, of Rose.
Which was the name of Mark's dead wife and Trent's dead mom.
Yeah. And so the end of the movie shows her as Captain, Commander, whatever it might happen to be. She's the shepherd of the ship. she is leading her ship and a couple other ships into battle against the alien ships around the moon, and then it just ends. And I'm like, one, that's the end of Halo 2. And I keep mentioning it, but it's too close to not be something that's based off of that. Like, it's not generic enough in which that I could pass off a lot of it is. It's too fucking close. Especially with so many of the ideas about why these things are possibly coming back here and all that stuff. It's too close. It's really too close. And there are certain parts of this movie that feel like a video game.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a video game cutscene.
It's the part where he gets the weapon on his arm.
Yeah.
Like, he sticks his hand and it clinks on and he's like,
I'm waiting to see, I'm waiting to see, stats pop up.
You
and,
get the
have
new
it.
HUD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get the new HUD, you get the stat upgrade. Like, you can, rotate the arm back and forth to see the different ways that it's just a mess. And it wants to be, honestly, this was trying to be the Aliens of this franchise.
Yeah.
You can tell because it's more action savvy. There's way more bullets flying. There's way more explosions and all this other kind of stuff. And they end with this huge fucking fight scene. But I think that's one of the reasons why the first one actually managed to pull off this better, because one, you rarely ever see any of the creatures in full view, because the moment the characters look at them, they're supposed to be in fucking danger.
Yeah, so the camera retreats with the character.
Yeah, they as much as I feel that the first movie did not rely enough on the spectacle that it was promising, it also managed to understand the components of cosmic horror that you don't show the full thing. You don't let the characters see the full thing. You see the tentacles reaching around the counter, or you hear it squealing, or whatever it might happen to be, but the light is supposed to be a danger. What was it? The main character, when they're riding up the escalator. Yeah.
Well, not even that. He was looking away from the light as his son was looking up and getting pulled up. Yeah. He was looking away. There's a later scene when they're in a cave or something like that, and they're shining the lights. His son is again walking towards it. He's staring dead at them with a shotgun, just.
Yeah.
It's okay. So why isn't he? He's looking dead at them to shoot them. Why is he not being pulled in? And there's no answer. There is no answer to that.
As opposed to the first movie, which doesn't really understand how to follow its own lore. The second movie just ignores it.
Yeah, it's it was too inconvenient. We set up too many rules. We're just gonna we'll in the first 15 minutes we'll establish the lore from the previous movie, but we'll go a little bit fast and loose after that.
Yeah, and the way the majority of the film is centered around these humanoid versions of this stuff that wasn't at all present really in the first movie, except to the very end.
It was only and even then I think there was a redesign between movies.
Yeah.
He seemed a lot more beast-like Jared did in the end of the last movie.
Absolutely. And this one it's a lot more.
It's standing on
dude
two
in a
legs.
suit.
It's just dude in a suit.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that took me out of it, because so much of the movie was spent with the creatures and on the ship and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't about people sneaking around trying to avoid shit. It was just confrontation, run to the next confrontation, run to the next confrontation.
I mean, I really think you hit the nail on the head with the Alien to Aliens.
Yeah.
Where it changed from a horror film to an action film. It did it poorly.
But it wasn't able to make that bridge.
No, because the whole thing with both movies in Alien, it was about the horror. Yes, you had some good set pieces, but even then...
You don't even see the alien until the end of the movie.
The alien is kept hidden for pretty much the whole of the movie. Aliens, on the other hand, again, good set pieces, and while you do see more of the alien, the whole Queen thing, that was all built around making an awesome action scene and establishing the character as an action hero at that point. This movie, the first one, Skyline, it was so spectacled, look at the aliens, look at it, that the horror was kind of okay, it's scary to see that stuff, but it's not that scary. I mean, this whole movie takes place in broad daylight. It's not a thing. And then this movie comes in, it's all right, and here's our action heroes. It's yeah, but we don't know nor care about them. It's not the whole thing of I know your family's dead, but you shouldn't be going out there. Do you know what's out there?
And I wouldn't even go so far as to say is that because this movie is as old as it is comparatively to the original film, because this movie came out in 2017, original one came out in 2010, it apparently was finished shooting in 2014.
what was the time difference between Alien and Aliens?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't make a difference to me about the timeline, really. Like, one, the only thing that makes a difference is the fact that your audience for this movie probably is no longer interested. It's like how the sequel to Sin City came out like nearly a decade after the first one, and no one fucking cared anymore because that style of movie was no longer considered culturally relevant. But the thing is with Aliens is the fact that the first Alien was very representative of the 70s. And the 80s was very representative of of Aliens itself. It was action. It was a lot of more macho vibes and all this other kind of stuff. And there's a lot of big bang booms and all that jazz. So it's highly representative of that particular era.
Of the action series.
Yeah, so I feel that that's one of the reasons why it was able to endure the way it was.
This one, it felt like 2010s was, you said that it was just around when Avatar came out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so Avatar, like special effects, that's the big thing. And that's what it felt like the first movie was. It was just, hey, look, special effects. We got such a budget for it. And then by the time 2017 rolled around, it's just like, hey, we can make a movie now.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like...
We finally can make this sequel happen.
Nothing in it was like societal, like... The only thing that it was trying to hint on society-wise, of like what was going on genre terms, was like the drug running. And even that was like 8 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I don't think that this movie was really trying to say anything about anything.
No, it was just to cash in.
A couple moments, it was. Like, you were trying to, like, oh, like... It's kind of like the whole, like, who's the real monster here? Maybe we deserve this and all this kind of stuff.
Sarge literally says that out loud.
And that's the worst. I mean, that's even bad for video game writing, honestly. It just gets to a point where I don't care. I did not care about these characters. I cared more about the characters from the first film. A, because you spend more time with them. Yeah. You don't have your perspective being cut in 5 different directions at once. And
I mean, when the fact that they cut over to Jared and Elaine at the I guess midpoint, if you want to call it that, it
roughly
genuinely surprised me in that I didn't expect this movie. Like, I expected it to be tangentially related in the fact that it started in L.A. and dealt with the same creatures. I didn't expect the stories to literally cross each other.
I was okay with that.
I was okay with it, but that was the most shocking part to me.
Yeah, and they really did not need to recap the first movie of why they were there, because if you're going to see Beyond Skyline, I'd hope that you've seen Skyline first. It's like going into The Godfather 2. I think that you would probably watch the first one to understand, the context.
Why we are here. Yeah. But no, but it goes down to the characterization where, no, I didn't care about any characters. But when Jared and
Nothing changed.
But when Jared and Elaine showed up, I cared about their story more than any of the characters that were introduced in this movie. Yeah. Because we had that entire other movie that was, frankly, better made. Yeah. So it was more interesting to me to see, okay, this is the continuation of their story. And so when it comes down to Mark being like, I need to help save my son, I'm like, I really don't care, Mark. Yeah. I want to see how Jared's gonna pilot that body. Yeah, that's more interesting to me than whatever you got going on.
And they just kind of roll with it. They just kind of like, oh well, he's just kind of been doing this thing for a while now, so we don't really need to watch him go through this.
An amorphous amount of time. By the way, don't try to work out the timeline.
We were trying throughout
it's impossible.
We had yarn and we had spreadsheets going, all sorts of stuff.
It does not work. It's straight up from that part at the very beginning when it takes them 2 days for some reason.
The only way that we could make this work is if it was jumping dimensions.
Pretty much. If this is timeline instead of Skyline.
It's the dreams in the witch house.
Do you have final thoughts?
My final thoughts are simply that this movie is more forgettable than the first one. I think it's because also I've known of Skyline, the first one, for so many years.
Completely forgot it on my end.
See, it was notorious when it came out. For several years after that, it was still notorious. A lot of people kind of compared it to Battleship Troopers. Okay. Though I love Battleship Troopers, and I don't love this movie at all. And the sequel makes it even worse. Excuse me. But overall, my whole shtick is that this one is more forgettable than the first one. It has less interesting characters than the first one, and that's saying something. It has less scare possibilities than the first one. Most of this thing takes place during the day.
Well, so did the last one.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. It's like it would have been so much more effective if it was at night and you had the creepy blue light coming through, like, you know, a basement or something like that. Use it to your advantage. You wouldn't have need to spend $10 million on the fucking special effects if you had used it a little bit more effectively. And I feel like this is definitely a movie series that is designed around people having fun with cheesy special effects movies. Like, that's kind of the impression that I got. The Strauss brothers, you know, if I'm reading you wrong here, I'm reading you wrong. But the only thing that I'm getting out of this movie and the last film is the fact that everything that it wanted to do, it didn't manage to do well.
For me, I think that it's...
I just don't care.
I think that it's... I feel like it's more of a demo reel for the special effects company than it is a...
Well, the special effects company was the first thing that was listed.
Exactly. I feel like they benefit the most from this. They're just like, look. Like, that's why everything needed to be in the daylight.
Yeah.
They were like, we need to show that this stuff looks good and we're not trying to hide it.
Yeah.
But, like, while it may look fine enough, it's perfectly fine for a spectacle movie. It's a matter of, like, okay, but there needs to be more to it than just the special effects.
Also, the special effects were almost the exact same for 2017 as it was for the 2010 one. So in the span of 7 years, after all these fucking Marvel movies have been coming out, mind you, and all these other kind of big special effects movies, that you haven't upped the ante at all.
No.
If anything, actually, I thought that the set pieces for Inside the Ship were really, really cheesy. Like, it wasn't cheesy in a fun way, like Lost in Space and stuff like that.
It was just Geiger hallways.
Yeah, and there's like this weird like mesh like webbing for some reason stretching across each doorway. There's no reason for any of it. Just because you want it to look a certain way doesn't mean that it's going to actually end up being scary or being off-putting or hell, even being fun. Because I feel that a lot of effort did go into this movie, but it was always focused on the wrong aspects.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reasons why that the American versions of the Godzilla films have been always so kind of lackluster, but yet like Shin Godzilla that came out a couple years ago from Hideki Anno and Higuchi, that movie was amazing in many different ways. And it wasn't even the strongest special effects movie I've seen. I think it's one of the best.
Like the monster in that, you can tell where it's entirely like just fake or like robot.
Oh yeah, but they make it work.
But it's because
the style of the whole film revolves
but
around
also
it.
it's the story of it. It's like an actual story.
There's actual implications for it.
Yeah.
And if this movie was the same setup as before, setting up, you know, a concurrent story happening through the events of the first film, we cannot spend most of the film going through the exact same bullshit that the first cast did. You have to progress the story somewhat.
Because if it's a parallel thing, then you have to assume that it's a sequel. That's what it is.
Don't let them find out the same information they found up in the first film and have nothing else about it.
If you're going to have them find out the same information, fine, do that, whatever. But have them discover it at least slightly different way. Every way was the exact same way. You had a character that had their brain ripped out even after they thought they were safe. You had a character who escaped the pit of a beast after being eaten. You had a character who was sucked up, had their brain sucked out, and then was in the thing and managed to regain control. Every one of the beats played out the exact same way.
Yeah.
And it was less of a sequel and more of a Force Awakens to New Hope thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's just the same thing. We gave it a different paint color.
Overall, I'm gonna forget this movie ever existed in a couple of weeks.
And for me,
I won't forget Skyline just because it's always been burned in my head. But for the most part, there's no real reason to watch this series.
For me, I completely agree. It shouldn't be a series. Watch the first one, like I said, have it on in a party if you so choose. It's nothing you need to really seek out. But
though if they make a third one, I probably will watch it just because I want to see the fucking battle.
Yeah, that's fair. But when it comes,
the whole third movie is just the battle.
When it comes to the second movie, it's not even it's not continuing the story from the first movie in a satisfying way. It does technically continue it. It continues the child that we said was a way they could have continued in a sequel.
Yeah.
But they introduced so many stupid other aspects and characters to it that it just wasn't worth the time.
We didn't even really talk about the kid and like how like she's growing up super fast over the course of a couple days, and then she just stops.
She stops for like 3 days, and then whatever.
And then all of a sudden, 10 years later,
10 years
she's
later,
like
20 something,
28, 30.
Well, but yeah. So overall, not a great movie. Not even a good movie. It's just it feels like a cash in, and if not, the demo reel for the special effects company.
And it failed at both of those.
Yep. So those are our thoughts on
Beyond Skyline.
Oh, it's time. It's time. It's happening.
What's wrong, Dave?
Oh, God. I need you to hold my hands. Please, hold my...
No, I don't know what kind of tentacles or whatever kind of fucking things are going to be coming out that thing, so I'm good in here. Thank you very much, man.
You're an asshole. Ah!
Well, it looks a little human. Wow, no.
Is it a boy or a girl? Hi.
All right, guys, I found it.
Hi.
Okay. I found their weakness. Who knows how to fire a gun?
I don't know. I was just born.
Good enough.
Cool.
You two, stay here. You're with me, kid.
What a day.
Made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.